I know it's just a commercial, and I know it really doesn't mean too much, but God, guys, it was just so awesome to see Sting on WWE programming. It was great. I've waited that for such a long time, and it finally happened. Now, of course, even though it's just a commercial, we all know that eventually Sting is going to make some sort of debut in WWE. But the question is, what can he do? What can he contribute? Well, the first thing I think of is he can be a great general manager. I know he can, and it would be fun to see him as a general manager. Right now, you just have the authority, and I think why not make Sting? Sting has always been a babyface, so why not have him be like the anti-authority figure, and have him be the general manager of Raw, or maybe Raw and SmackDown if you want to go there too. I think he could be a great general manager, but if he does be a general manager, the one thing I really want him to stay as, I want him to keep the face paint. I want him to keep the Sting character. I know in TNA they let him like take off his face paint and let him be, Steve Borden or whatever. But you know what? That was stupid. I always thought that, the face paint is what made Sting. Sting. Sting was pretty much just an average Joe without the face paint. If Sting came to the ring in the 1990s without his face paint, what is that? Like that seemed weird. So if Sting does become an authority figure, I want it to be the full-blown Sting character. I don't think it would be as fun if it was just Sting, in some sunglasses and a leather jacket, and not in his ring attire, even though that might seem kind of weird that a general manager is showing up in ring attire. I don't know, I think it would fit Sting. But that's pretty much the authority figure role. But then people are thinking, well, he's probably going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, which is very well deserving. Even though he's been with WWE for 1 second, he totally deserves to be in the Hall of Fame just because he was able to grow into such a big star without Vince McMahon's help. Vince McMahon is the wrestling giant, and Sting was able to cement his legacy without his help, without his brand, which I think is very, very awesome for Sting, and he totally deserves a Hall of Fame run. That being said, does he deserve a match? Honestly, I say yes. Now, Sting obviously has been lacking in the ring for the past couple of years, but honestly, I don't think that will hurt him in getting a match. I think he deserves at least one. Now, the question is, who does he face? Of course, I'm going to say Undertaker at WrestleMania 31, but let's just say the Undertaker isn't healthy. Who can he face? There have been discussions of John Cena. And while that would be great, I'm not sure if that would be the number one priority. I think Sting should face a younger guy. And when I think of a younger guy, I think of Bray Wyatt. Sting vs. Bray Wyatt could be a fantastic match. Not only because Bray Wyatt is young enough to help Sting through the match and not necessarily carry him, but take a brunt of the work and take a brunt of the force from the match because Sting, as we know, is old and lacking in the ring. The promos, the build-up, the atmosphere around this match is what's going to make this match amazing. You could have this match at WrestleMania. I think it would be great for Bray Wyatt to have a match at WrestleMania against Sting. Have Bray Wyatt win because there's no reason for Sting to win. I mean, Sting could win if they wanted him to, but, I don't think Sting would mind jobbing to Bray Wyatt. Maybe if, I don't know. That could be a slippery slope. You could say, well, Sting deserves to at least win a match, but I'm not sure. I think Sting would be fine with doing business and maybe losing to Bray Wyatt. Maybe Sting has maybe a couple TV matches that he wins. But I think, if it comes down to a pay-per-view match, and if Sting versus Bray Wyatt happens at a pay-per-view, I think it would help Bray Wyatt to beat Sting. And I think Sting would be willing to do that. And again, I know that might seem weird that having this guy come into the company and lose his first match and maybe his only match, but honestly, I think it makes sense. I mean, people were dying to see Undertaker versus Sting before Undertaker's streak came in to play, and honestly, we all knew Sting was going to lose to The Undertaker if he faced him at WrestleMania with the streak on the line. But now that the streak is gone, Undertaker is totally free for WrestleMania, and if he can compete, it's anyone's ballgame with Sting and Undertaker. So I could totally see Sting and Undertaker having a match and fulfilling the fans' dream. Because let's face it, that's been a dream match for a majority of fans for years and years. And I know what all of you are going to say. It's 2014, Sting and Undertaker are beat up, they're in their 50s or like late 40s, the match is going to suck. Yeah, that may be true, but honestly, does this match need to be longer than 10 minutes? I say 10 minutes maximum. 8 to 10 minutes is what this match needs. Let the fans have their moments. Throw the fans a bone. Who knows? This match could be even good. They might just say, let's go balls to the wall. This is going to be both of our last matches. Balls to the wall. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying they're going to be doing, suicide dives off the top rope, but I still think we could have a good match on our hands. The crowd's desire to see this match. And again, now you're going into another slippery slope because how many people in the WWE audience actually know Sting now? You know, WWE appeals to younger kids and teenagers, and let's just say even someone my age. If it wasn't for my older brother, I probably wouldn't know about Sting. You know, and I mean, I now because I'm such a big fan now, maybe I would have gone back, back and looked at some old tapes of NWA and WCW and learned about Sting. But at a young age, I knew about Sting, and I always knew about Sting when I was like, 5, 6, 7 years old watching WWE. I still knew about Sting, which is something a lot of people in WWE don't know nowadays that were my age. A lot of kids out in the audience probably have no idea who that person was. They're thinking, who the hell is the dude with all the face paint? What is he? But yeah, no, I totally think that the fans kind of have a disconnect with Sting. It's really for the diehard fans. You're throwing the diehard fans a bone. You're throwing the old school fans a bone with Sting. I think having Sting versus The Undertaker wouldn't be a horrible idea. The match might not be as good as people hope, but you gotta expect that. And I think if the match is a limited time, if it's only 8 to 10 minutes, what's the worst it can do? And maybe have Sting beat The Undertaker, because The Undertaker, as we know, lost at WrestleMania, so his streak is completely gone. It's out of the picture. It's totally... Now, obviously, his record would be kind of weird because, all we're going to remember is 21-1, so it would be appropriate for Undertaker to retire right after he loses the streak. So if Undertaker does retire and we never see Sting versus Undertaker, I'll be a little sore, but you know what? It's probably for the best. I say if Sting has one opponent, I think it should be Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt and Sting would be a perfect mix. Think about all the special effects, all the lightning, and the static intro from Bray Wyatt. It would just be perfect. And Sting could play mind games too. Sting can be up in the rafters while Bray Wyatt's making his entrance. Brilliant stuff like that. I know other people have mentioned the John Cena program that Sting could have with him, where Sting's trying to defend Ric Flair's record, but I honestly don't see WWE doing that. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I don't really see them doing it that much because that seems very how do I say this? How do I put it? That seems very like wrestling history-ish. And as we know, WWE does not like bringing up the past. And I don't even think WWE has mentioned that Ric Flair is one title close to Ric Flair's record. So they could do that, but I don't see it happening. There aren't many other names, I think, that I don't want to say are worthy of facing Sting, but more or less, they just don't mix with Sting. Sting is now like a dying breed of wrestlers from a certain generation. He's hanging on by a nail. And I think if he's going to have one match, or at least one big pay-per-view match, I want it to be against The Undertaker, but if The Undertaker says, screw this, I lost, I'm done, my body is totally not ready, I'm out, I think he should have his match with Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt is a very, very logical opponent for Sting. If you don't want Sting to lose his only pay-per-view match, you could have Sting go over, but again, I don't want Bray Wyatt to be totally hurt by Sting getting a One Glory match. I say have Sting, if Sting does work a program with Bray Wyatt leading up to WrestleMania, have Sting win a couple TV matches on Raw and SmackDown, and, maybe that will cover up for it. But in the end, I think Sting vs. Bray Wyatt could be an excellent WrestleMania match. The only concern I can really think of when it comes to Sting and Bray Wyatt is Bray Wyatt's star power. If you look at it objectively, here's a guy who hasn't wrestled ever in this company, and for one match he's going to come in, and this career has spanned 30 years, and Sting is such a decorated wrestler, and he's had such a great career that you're really going to spend it on someone who debuted in the summer of 2013. Bray Wyatt will eventually become a great star in the WWE, but right now he's just a main eventer. He's not that guy, that top. He's just not there yet. And do you really think he should face Sting? Whether Bray Wyatt wins or loses, he would benefit from Sting. He would totally benefit from Sting. But it all comes down to, do you want Sting to be wasted? I don't even want to say wasted, but do you want Sting to basically have his one match against someone who, in the end, might not have as big a career as you're hoping? That's a gamble. Sting could easily face John Cena. That's a big opponent. I would even say Randy Orton, because in WWE's mind, Randy Orton is a big deal. And for me, Randy Orton is a big deal. And I think Randy Orton could go with Sting. Sure, Randy Orton might not have as big as a career as John Cena, but at least the Orton name has, has garnered some legacy. At least that has a little bit of ground to cover. The Orton name is famous throughout wrestling. I guess the only other person maybe is Triple H. Like he could be a good option, but I don't know if Triple H and Sting, I don't really know if that would fit too well together. They might make it work. They might make Sting like an anti-authority member. Like, he is one of the head honchos that isn't with the Authority Alliance. So maybe they'll have a Sting Triple H match. But honestly, I think Bray Wyatt would make the most sense, and I think he would be a great opponent for Sting. If you look at guys like Magnus and Bully Ray, people Sting worked with in TNA, they carried majority of the match, and they carried most of the work, and they took most of the beating. I think Bray Wyatt is skilled enough in the ring to carry Sting, not even to this fantastic classic, but just a match that will meet the fan standards and won't have him sleeping throughout the match. It doesn't have to be long, like I said with the Undertaker match. Maybe have this 8, 10, 12 minutes. 12 minutes max. And it could be a great match. It can be a great mind game match. And Sting is just so great with those mind game things now that he has adopted the Crow character that it would be a great match to see, and it would be a great thing to watch in front of your eyes. It would be a great way to see the promos between Bray Wyatt and Sting. And I'd love to see Bray Wyatt actually get into Sting's head. And Sting is just known for mind games, especially with this Crow character. So Sting and Bray Wyatt would be a fantastic match. I love to see that. Sting and Undertaker, that's the classic dream match. But if all else fails, Sting and Bray Wyatt is the way to go, in my opinion. A fantastic match. And Sting could totally, he could contribute in ring. And I think a Hall of Fame spot is bound for Sting. He's totally going to get one. But if he's going to have one match at WrestleMania, Undertaker's your best option. But honestly, so is Bray Wyatt. And I think both of those matches could definitely live up to hype.